John Deere, one of America's most iconic agricultural equipment manufacturers, has made a decision that shocked many Americans. The company is moving some of its production from Iowa to Mexico, resulting in hundreds of U.S. workers losing their jobs. For almost 2 centuries, John Deere has been a symbol of American agriculture and manufacturing prowess. Founded in 1837, the company has represented the resilience and progress of rural communities across the United States. The recent announcement to close multiple U.S. factories and relocate production to Mexico came with clear objectives: reduce operational costs, increase shareholder returns, and maintain competitiveness in the global market. However, the consequences have been severe. Over 7,000 workers lost their jobs in the first quarter alone, and towns dependent on Deere's factories have spiraled into economic recession. Local businesses, from diners to repair shops, have been forced to shut down due to the loss of foot traffic and community spending power. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth economic analysis and breaking news about how global trade policies are affecting American workers and businesses. Trump's tariff response. Former President Donald Trump responded to John Deere's decision with a dramatic policy threat. In a speech in Pennsylvania, he announced a potential 200% tariff on products from companies that move their manufacturing overseas, specifically targeting John Deere's Mexican-produced equipment. "I'm just notifying John Deere right now," Trump declared. "If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States. John Deere is going to, and anybody else that does this, because it's hurting our farmers. It's hurting our manufacturing." Trump's intention was clear: punish companies that outsource jobs and pressure them to bring production back to American soil. However, the economic reality proved more complex than anticipated. Instead of bringing manufacturing back to the United States, the tariff threats triggered a cascade of negative effects, including rising prices, supply chain disruptions, and accelerated offshoring by major manufacturers seeking to protect their profit margins. Impact on American workers. The American labor force, particularly in the Midwest, has borne the brunt of these changes. Factories are closing at an alarming rate. Mass layoffs have affected thousands of skilled workers, and those who once took pride in their jobs at major manufacturers now face uncertain futures. Small businesses that depended on these factories, from auto repair shops to parts suppliers, are shutting down. Communities built around manufacturing are experiencing economic downturns not seen since the Great Recession. The Made in America dream that many workers believed in has faded, replaced by economic uncertainty and diminished opportunities. The cost of equipment has skyrocketed, with the price of a John Deere tractor rising from around $60,000 to over $100,000 in just a few months, putting additional pressure on businesses and consumers alike. Farmers' response to John Deere. The farming community, traditionally loyal to John Deere, responded to the company's offshoring decision with a powerful boycott. In farming states like Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri, farmers switched to alternative brands like Kubota, AGCO, or Case IH. These competitors offered more flexible repair policies, easier accessibility, and fewer software restrictions than John Deere had imposed. The impact was immediate and substantial. Sales at John Deere dealerships in the Midwest plummeted by up to 40%. The iconic green Deere logo, once visible on virtually every American farm, began disappearing from barns, trucks, and farm signs. One longtime dealer in Iowa reported, "We lost more than half of our loyal customers in just 6 months." At the same time, the agricultural sector faces a perfect storm of challenges with rising equipment costs, falling crop prices, and widespread small farm bankruptcies. China's retaliatory measures. China's response to U.S. tariff policies was swift and targeted. The country imposed a 125% tariff on U.S. products, including cars, machinery, and semiconductor parts. These sectors contributed over $36 billion to the U.S. economy in the previous year. The immediate consequences were significant. Tesla suspended shipments to China. Tesla's market value dropped by over $2 billion in just 2 days, and supply chains experienced further disruption. Beyond tariffs, China also began reducing its holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds, dropping to a 15-year low of just $668 billion. Chinese state-owned banks started shifting away from the U.S. dollar, increasingly using the Chinese yuan and euro for international transactions. This financial strategy signals China's intent to reduce its dependence on the U.S. financial system and prepare for a global economy less dominated by the U.S. dollar. Global realignment. The tariff war has accelerated a broader realignment in global trade relationships. Traditional U.S. allies like Canada, Saudi Arabia, and Germany are rebuilding their trade strategies to be less dependent on the United States. Countries are moving toward new payment systems that don't rely on U.S. financial infrastructure. And China is aggressively investing in strategic industries like electric vehicles, not just competing but seeking market dominance. This realignment suggests a shift toward a more multipolar world economy, where U.S. economic leadership faces significant challenges from multiple directions. The U.S. automobile industry is facing a major crisis due to the tariff policies of China and the EU, with Ford's factories in Ohio, Michigan, and Kentucky cutting production as export orders shrink. Ford's specific challenges. Ford Motor Company exemplifies the difficulties facing major U.S. manufacturers. China accounted for approximately 15% of Ford's revenue in 2024, and the company could lose up to $5 billion annually from Chinese market restrictions. Additional tariffs from the European Union could cost Ford another $3 to $4 billion yearly. Production costs have increased by $2,000 to $5,000 per vehicle due to tariffs and supply chain issues, forcing Ford to increase consumer prices by $2,000 to $4,000 per vehicle. The company faces potential job cuts of 5,000 to 10,000 workers, particularly in engine and auto parts manufacturing plants in Ohio, Michigan, and Kentucky. These pressures create a vicious cycle. Higher costs lead to higher prices, reducing demand and further squeezing profits and employment. Market impact. The broader economic impact has been reflected in stock market performance. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1,000 points in a single day, with over $500 billion in market value erased as China's measures strongly impacted U.S. industries and exports. Both manufacturing and technology sectors experienced significant volatility, and investor confidence has been shaken by the unpredictability of trade policies and their wide-ranging economic consequences. Rising inflation is making living costs more expensive, and weak consumer sentiment might force families to save more and spend less. The difficulties for consumers extend to rising car prices, long delivery times, and higher maintenance costs as just a few clear examples of the challenges faced in today's economic situation. Alternative approaches. Honda's hydrogen strategy. While many manufacturers struggle with tariffs and supply chain issues, some companies are pursuing innovative strategies. Honda, in collaboration with General Motors, has developed the CR-V SEV, a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle that represents a different approach to transportation's future. This SUV offers refueling in just 3 to 5 minutes, a driving range of approximately 270 miles, 435 kilometers, independence from electrical grid infrastructure, and $15,000 in free hydrogen fuel for the first 3 years of ownership. Honda's strategy highlights how some manufacturers are seeking technological solutions that avoid dependency on global supply chains that have become increasingly vulnerable to trade disputes. In an era where electrification is the universal motto for global car manufacturers, Honda has chosen a path less traveled, a return to hydrogen, but in a whole new form. Long-term economic outlook. The full economic impact of current trade policies remains uncertain, but several trends are becoming clear. The global manufacturing landscape is being fundamentally reshaped, with companies prioritizing diversification and resilience over centralization. American consumers face higher prices across multiple product categories as companies pass increased costs to end users. Traditional manufacturing regions are experiencing employment declines that may not be easily reversed, and the U.S. manufacturing sector faces intensified competition from international rivals who can leverage lower production costs and strategic government support. Addressing these challenges may require increased federal government support for small and medium-sized businesses, investment in domestic production and supply chains, recalibration of trade policies, and better consumer education about the implications of purchasing decisions on domestic manufacturing and employment. The economic impact of tariff policies extends far beyond the immediate industries targeted. From John Deere's decision to move production to Mexico to China's retaliatory measures, the consequences ripple through supply chains, affect consumer prices, influence employment patterns, and reshape global trade relationships. As the situation continues to evolve, policymakers, businesses, and consumers face difficult choices about how to balance competing priorities, protecting domestic jobs, maintaining affordable prices, ensuring international competitiveness, and building economic resilience. The resolution of these tensions will play a significant role in determining the future structure of both the U.S. and global economies.